Hey, Prosperity Collabs, welcome back for another great episode. We have one of the top agents in the Temecula Valley here. And what I love about this story is he's only been in real estate for about 6.5 years, and he has built an incredible business. And so I'm excited to see the insights that you're going to get into working online leads, into working buyers, into working sellers at a high level, and really just the energy that you see from someone who is really, I would say, at the beginning of building an empire, but well on his way. So without further ado, Anthony Lauria, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thanks for coming in. Like I said, You've done quite a lot in the last 6.5 years. I think right now you're sitting at about 23 units that I can see on the MLS. I know those numbers, like it's funny, I had Tyson here the other day, Tyson Robinson, and I said, you're like this. And he's like, I think it's higher than that. I can see 23 on the MLS. What's the number that you're
39 pending in close.
39. Okay. So that's going to include new home sales, et cetera.
Yeah, there's a few, I have a couple coming soon and a handful of new builds. And
nice, man.
A few pending. So
I always like to begin with nobody was born in real estate, right? We all kind of come from different places. How did you get into this? Like, what was the journey to real estate? Was there a life before? I mean, you're a pretty young guy, so tell me about it.
Yeah, so definitely a life before. Pretty much always been in sales. Bounced the idea around for a while. Never really had the connection to kind of get in, and that's what I felt like I was missing. Was friends with people in the industry around Temecula, either that I started following or knew. A lot of people you might know, high producers, and just got curious and had reached out to a couple. It didn't kind of go as well as I had, thought. And then I can't remember if I just decided to get my license or I think I just decided to get my license and I was coming up to getting licensed, and then reached out to one of the top teams in Menifee at the time, their team lead, and he gave me a shot. And kind of once I told him what I did and what my background was, he was like, okay, this could be a good option for you.
Okay. So sales means a lot of things. Background in sales. What were you selling before you got to real estate?
Gosh. I've sold suits at Men's Warehouse for years. I helped manage a personal training company in San Diego, the sales division, marketing for dental and medical practices, just selling pretty much anything you can think of, from websites to SEO, pay-per-click, trying to grow their business, pretty much all over the phone.
Yeah.
So good money at times, draining. I just realized that just wasn't for me. And I don't think the expectations from what they wanted and what I wanted was just not aligned.
Yeah. So there's a nice blend there, though, of they're coming into me, kind of the Men's Warehouse, the gym memberships, and I have to now be doing sort of the grinding prospecting work, which is the selling, marketing to dental companies, et cetera. I mean, I think that's the prospecting part can be really challenging for real estate agents, right? But you came in with, I've already done those kind of things, right?
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, I almost feel like I was more consistent in the beginning, but I think that's when I was grinding, trying to get business. And now it's sometimes the tough part is to stay consistent, like you should when you have business coming, instead of being 90 days behind when you need it and you didn't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is the challenge, right? Real estate is so demanding in the short term. For me to stay focused in the long term is, and staying in startup phase when we kind of feel like we're out of the startup phase, right?
Right.
So let me ask you, how did you know that you hit it? This was it. Like, you were in it. This was what your career was. This is where you were going to make your mark.
It's a pretty good question. I would say it was probably around like the 2.5 year, because I did like a dozen deals on a team the first year, made pretty good money. And then it was just a different market in 2018, I think that was. And it was just, it was kind of tough. Everything was sitting longer. It was just a different market. So it was like, make good money, tank, make good money, tank. And it was like just nerve wracking for me. So, I mean, I did kind of doubt myself a little bit, but then I just kept at it, kept working, kept listening to people that were doing it at a higher level above me, stuck with it, and, basically kind of built up my savings a little bit and decided to leave the team, which I learned pretty much everything that, in a way contributed to success, and then took off from there. And then, joined a brokerage that gave me a shot too, with much like better splits, top producers in there as well. And then I think I doubled my deals the next year without the reliance of, the dependency of the team. And, it was kind of just like me now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's when, after that year, and when I doubled my income that year, I was like, crap, I don't have another choice. This is it,
Yeah, absolutely.
That was I just kind of.
So you got in on a team. Obviously, team splits are less than a solo agent. What was the structure of that team? Because you said you did 12 units. Was that 12 units that came from your database? Was that 12 units that came from their database? Was it online leads?
Yeah. I mean, like we had a pond of leads. If you were bored or just didn't have any business, you could go into 10,000, 12, I don't remember, a lot of leads and dig up old business from their sources. Open houses, I was doing probably 3 to 4 a month, which I tried to stay consistent at. I was door knocking, was doing all that stuff. I really didn't get much success from that, probably because I didn't do it long enough. But I mean, I was actively every weekend, putting up signs or knocking on doors and just trying to answer every call I could, because at the time, the team we were on, we were one of the top, in the Valley. So we got the really good leads, I felt. At least I thought they were, and we got a lot of them.
Okay.
And the structure there was, is if you didn't make a certain amount of calls, going into the weekend, or I believe actually daily, your leads weren't on. So every weekend is when you typically had the most people looking online.
Right.
So every Friday I would just make it, other days too, but just make it a point, like that's the most important day to finish my leads, and then that's how I got even more consistent with dialing 50, 75 or 100 calls, not just on a dialer,
right,
like Mojo or something, but, just through Follow Up Boss, for example, and just being consistent with it.
Yeah. I love it. What I'm hearing is that team gave you a very radical accountability, and it was, you make calls or you don't have the opportunities anymore.
Yeah. That
was enough for you. Right. And I think it's such it's a nice way to make a transition into the real estate industry, because a lot of people fail because they don't have accountability. They're not used to holding themselves accountable. You're coming from a sales background, so you've practiced accountability, but then you've got this team, which is like here's the door going to slam in your face accountability, right? 100 calls in a day. I'll tell you what, most agents, they hear that, they're going to be like, that's nice for you, but I'm never doing that. You're calling, you said Follow Up Boss leads from the pond. I mean, are these warm? Are they cold? Are all the above?
I felt like some agents were better than others. They throw them in the pond if, they didn't answer 3, 4, or 5 times. I'd go through the pond and just kind of look at some notes and just like grab 50 of them and just start dialing, and I probably pulled up, a handful just from that, or, so-and-so never contacted me back. Yeah, I remember you. I'm still getting your emails like from the team. But just drumming up conversation, because at one point they raised their hand and whether it was now a year, unless they just didn't qualify, they have interest.
Yeah. Because the thing is, like, you're calling these people, they don't know you, right? And it's that mindset of, I'm just going to dial until I get the appointments I need. Versus, I don't want to bother them. What if they're rude to me? What if they're, it sounds like that wasn't a problem for you.
No, I mean, the rejection thing of kind of being told to, pound sand in a way was pretty common, but I always just went in with the, hey, you came into our ecosystem. I'm just here to facilitate, maybe what you're looking for and provide value and really figure out what it is that they're looking for. Is it a longer timeline? Kind of break down some of those walls.
Yeah.
Is it their bad credit that they don't want to talk about? It's a lot of times like I feel like they're either a short cycle lead or a long. It's not really in the middle. Sometimes it is, but it's either a nurture or they're, 90 days, give or take.
Yeah. But I think that's something that a lot of people don't get about sort of online leads, pond sources like that, is these are not referrals.
Right.
They're leads, right? And a lead has to be worked. So it's a different mindset that you go into it. I'm going to have to follow this. I'm going to have to chase this. I'm going to have to develop this. I've heard someone say, these leads can't reject you. they don't know you. You know what I mean? Like, and if you don't know me, you can't reject me, right? They're just rejecting a voice on the phone. Okay, next, right? You develop that mentality. 12 deals in your first year is pretty good. You said the second year you really started. Was second year was 12 years or the first year?
Well, the first full year was 12.
That's awesome, right? You decided to make the jump now into an independent, and you started having to develop your own leads at that point, your own database, lead sources.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I built up a database. I was already slowly starting to get some referrals. I kind of just did the math in my head of, looking at the worst case scenario of even if I did half as many on a higher split, I could still survive. Not the best mentality, but I was thinking worst case scenario.
I mean, I think it's a legitimate.
Yeah. Right? So that's kind of what I thought about. And then I had, like I said, some money saved up. Did invest in Zillow at the time. Right off the bat with Zillow, I had some of the biggest deals I've ever closed. And that was like the dangle of the carrot, and Zillow plays God with their leads. So after another year, I kind of canceled them. Good decision over time. But I mean, is there still gold in there, even if you're not on like Flex or something? Absolutely. But, I always felt like they were filtering it. Like in the very beginning, you're paying, $3-4 grand a month for leads. Yeah. They're going to give you some good leads for a couple months. They see you close some, or, your rep follows up with you, and then they'll start, divvy them out to someone else. I mean, it just made sense to me that way. Yeah. Whether they say it was true or not. But after a lot of stale conversations and just like how this is not, they were just getting worse. So that's when I was like looking at my spend, and I went into other areas and got into, over time into PPC. Had some pretty good success with that. Actually really good success over time, but kind of steered away from that too. And I probably shouldn't have. Okay. But yeah, I mean, PPC, as far as actual lead source, that was like solely, mine and no split was probably my most successful.
Nice. So PPC, are you running those ads Google? Are you running those ads Facebook? Where are you at running?
Google, strictly.
So Google PPC. So that was a good lead source for you. So, I love to get into the nitty gritty of this. What kind of ad spend were you running and what kind of return were you getting?
Yeah, good question. I started to get better with my finances as far as what I'm actually spending later.
Yeah.
But I want to say I was doing about $2,000, $2,500 a month. Okay. Approximately. And had some good success the first month or so, which was like, wow, this is great too. And they're a longer cycle lead in general. You're getting lucky if you get something like right off the bat. I think the first 3 weeks, I had someone want to go to a new construction community, met them once, signed up, bam. And then it was like 2-3 months after that, got another one, and they were just they're draining, but you have to keep following up. You might be getting 60, 80 leads a month, but you have to follow up. And I stuck with it, even though I was getting kind of fed up with just like, is this the right lead source? Then I had like another handful, just a couple buy sells in a row, handful of buyers. I mean, I've actually sold some of them now twice since then. Actually closed 2 last week from it that were from technically close to 2 years ago they came in.
Yeah. So what got them to click the ad?
Well, I had a really good guy helping me run it. He was very well known throughout the country, helps teams. He was a realtor too, but I just got referred to him from someone else at my brokerage, my old brokerage at Signature. And gave it a shot. And supposedly he just mastered the keywords. It didn't matter what city you're in. It was just like it would work for every city. And, someone would come on a lead looking in Temecula or Fallbrook. They're clicking on a 4-bedroom home that's off 123 Main Street. And that's kind of how I went into the conversation, is off that. At least I know what they're clicking. If they don't answer, my CRM's basically going to start sending them properties similar. But if I get them on a conversation, I'm going to obviously fine tune that. But they were at least on drips consistently to where, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know if I called this person, but they're like, oh, Anthony. And it's like, oh,
yeah. I think it's not hard to generate leads online. What's hard is to sift the data. Yeah. Right. And I think, your mindset around that, again, coming from the sales background, working on a team, you were kind of uniquely positioned to sift the mud, right? And that's really what you got to do. You got to sift the mud to find the gold, right?
Right.
And looking at every one of those leads, there's no bad leads, right? There's just bad follow-up. But it sounds like you had somebody working with you to create the click program. As far as the lead funnels, all those things, same person building that out for you, or is that something you had to do?
A lot of hours spent on with my account manager, my CRM, figuring out how to manage them better, different flows. When I change the stage from this, what action plan kicks in, just knowing like if there's, just say for instance, 1,000 leads, what ones should I be focusing on more?
Yeah.
Because it was like every day you kind of go in and you try to knock out the things that are important. And then you're like, okay, let's call. And then you're just like, it's just overwhelming at times. So the more you have, an easy workflow, let's call it left to right. Think you have a better work day. It's still tough and I'm still not, the best at it, but at least I'll know, I was just like whether I'm setting a reminder on my phone or I just try to set them as much as I can for the ones that I think are the most warm. Google Calendar, my CRM, just so I don't forget, and even then you still miss them.
Well, when they're coming in at volume, absolutely. One of the things that I think is a differentiator that you said was I spent a lot of time on the phone with my account manager. I spent a lot of time developing these programs because I can't tell you how many agents have CRMs that they don't use. Right? I was talking to somebody the other day and they're using a Lofty, I think is a CRM.
Yeah,
why are you?
That's what I used for a long time too.
And they're saying it does all these things, and I'm like, that's great.
But they don't do it.
You're not doing all those things, right? Yeah. And to take that time, it's hard. It's hard, and a lot of times it's time after hours, right? Because you're making your calls, you're grinding, you got to feed yourself. And then I got new energy to do it. How did you have the fortitude to do that? I mean, or is tech stuff easy? It's not challenging.
No, I've gotten a lot better at it, but that's like the last thing I like doing is the technical stuff. I hate to say it. I'd rather just pay someone to do it because it's just like overwhelming, and
there's an argument for that.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just overwhelming, especially when technical some of these things can get with setting up certain things. It's just like, okay, back on the phone with my account manager. They're not available, call, and I'm like frustrated trying to get over this step. And then oftentimes, there was sometimes, a week I was spending just trying to get this dialed in and still working on my more hot things, but then back on the phone trying to figure out, okay, it's still not working. These leads are still getting this. Why is it happening? Okay. And then they look into the backside on the tech and then, it's draining. Yeah. It's draining, but, a lot of the people that I work with now are, some of the, broker owner, they're all techie, everything's, if it's, there should be a rule for everything or at least left to right type of thing, when this and this happens, change it to this. But the systems and tools I feel like are huge to growing. Otherwise you just have, otherwise you should just write it down on a piece of paper,
right?
Because, if you're not notified when you have a couple thousand leads on what's important, unless it's something that really sticks out to you, you're going to miss it.
Yeah, no, totally. There's people in this industry who are relationship savants, right? And they can operate their database, however many hundred people, but they're always going to run into that ceiling, that systems, right? And if you don't do systems, you're never going to get past that ceiling because we all have the capacity of what we can hold.
Right.
You're coming at it from a more anonymous. These are online leads. We don't have that relationship I can rely on. So without the system, there's not going to be a relationship. Right. And I think that's, that makes a lot of sense, especially with your background and how you're coming into it. So this year, last 12 months, I said 23 sales. You said like closer to 40. Right. And again, I'm not arguing that number because I think it's just a disparity between what I can see. Why? What do you attribute the success to? Right, particularly in the Valley here in Temecula, what has enabled you to really thrive in a market where a lot of agents are saying there's no business? Right.
I go to work every day. At least Monday through Friday, 100% I'm at the office, and usually working either showing homes or at an appointment at least one day in the week. But there's been a month straight where I've worked 7 days in a row from get to the office at, whatever time I do, get home at 6 or 7, 8, and then I'm out showing homes till 4 or 5 on a Saturday or Sunday. The consistency and just kind of the chase of it too is the harder you work, the more you make.
Right.
So that's been huge. And honestly, the last 3-4 years, I've got a good amount of referrals. I think treating people good and having their best interest, not necessarily just yours all the time, but I mean, just going above and beyond on everything and looking past the money factor usually comes back, and I've seen it happen. Like I've sold a home one time for gosh darn nothing after things just went wrong during the sale. The seller proceeds turned out to just be incorrect. Just everything went wrong. Right. And so I dropped my commission to almost nothing to help them get into a home. And 3-4 weeks later, they referred me to a family member, and it was like a $750,000 home. But I think it had to do with just having good character, and their situation was awful. And for me, it was like, oh, I'm trying to make money and help them, but it was being a good person, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're part of somebody's story. You know what I mean? Like this is, they're buying a house to raise a family, or they're buying a house to retire, or they're buying a house to have independence, or they're buying a house because they're losing their independence, whatever it is. But it's not my story. Right. It's their story. Right. And I love what you said about, I had to kind of pitch in more. I didn't make much money, but it's not my story. Right. And the good news is people talk. Right. And I think that's part of the thing that, the very best in this industry, that's just a reflex. Right. We just take care of people. And it's something I don't think the national news gets. You know what I mean? That you cannot be successful in a sales-driven industry where you're dealing with people's lives if you don't care. Yeah. Right.
And they know it.
Oh yeah. Totally.
Easily.
Totally.
People, I mean, it's always been like that with, I feel like, a lot of sales roles, but real estate more than anything, whether you're new, the seasoned vet, whatever, you could be good at it, but if they don't like you, and I feel like trust you more importantly, they won't work with you. Right. Like, one of my biggest listings I ever got when I was newer, I was all nervous about it, right? But they just liked me, and that's what I was told. My numbers weren't the best, but I prepared. I did a great job. Home sold pretty quick. Yeah. But it was a big listing, and it was a little nervous for me, right? And they liked me, and they signed right there, and from what I was told, they were for me a family member too. That's awesome. Yeah. But they said it was her sister. She's my sister, and her husband really liked you. Yeah. So I was like, wow. There you go. So there's a book I love. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow, and it's just on. I think the guy won a Nobel Prize. It's on decision making, and one of the things he talks about is called the halo effect. And essentially, if I like you, I assume you're good at your job, even if I have no evidence to back that up, and you can't fake that. Right. You know what I mean? Like if someone's not being authentic, it's that uncanny valley sort of like, you're like, I know I can't sense it a mile away. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like you scare me. I don't want to be with you. So it definitely speaks to your business that if people are referring you, right, there's that halo effect going on. And what's the number one reason people talk about why they select a realtor? It's usually reputation, right? What is reputation? It's just that the people who know you like you, right? And that's how you build reputation. Yeah. You work with a lot of buyers, right? I was looking at your numbers. Yeah, mainly it's probably like, I think I have 11 sellers this year and 27, 28 buyers. So definitely more. Yeah. But buyers take time. Yeah, they do. How do you, I guess that's the question I wanted to get into is there's some crazy time management there, right? Because whether you have 27 buyers or one buyer, every buyer wants to be your only buyer. Right. Right. How do you take care of, what do you have leverage that well, what's that? When I was younger, I kind of run around and just, appointment there, appointment here, doesn't matter what day. I still make myself available as much as possible, but I think I have a lot more client control than I used to years ago. And them understanding you as more of an authority of trusting your guidance and your input on things. They send me 11 homes and absolutely not, we're not seeing 11 homes. Right. Narrowing that down to 4 to 6 or something and telling them why, you were wanting this in a home and just looking at 4 of these aren't them. Oh yeah, you're right. Or you didn't want to go over here, I thought, but I like this and it has the pool, but isn't that too far for work? You're right. You know, and just, I mean, I respect your time and hope you respect mine. So like, you know,
well, I mean,
I say it in a nicer way, but you know,
totally. I know, but I think there's that fiduciary obligation, right? Like, and you and I both know pictures, you can do a lot with staging. You know what I mean? And so if they're saying, "Oh, I want to go see this home," it's in the city. You're like, no, you do because they did a really good job. But you're going to get shot in that neighborhood or whatever it is, you know, or you know, you've got a Great Dane and that's 1,200 square feet. It's not going to work. I know you have a pretty kitchen, but that's a fiduciary responsibility. The other thing is, man, you show 11 houses, nobody remembers what they saw.
No, so that's funny. Yeah, that's the main thing I say is, you know, you're not going to remember house number 1. You're going to confuse the kitchen with house number 4's backyard. They all blend together. Yeah, you know. So I try to just narrow it down to a handful, and if we need to go back another time, we will. But you know, just having the criteria more dialed, I think, is amazing. Like. Yeah, I sold a home in Fallbrook maybe 2 months ago or so. It was like 1.25 or something like that. But the buyer was actually, it was the best thing I ever heard because he wanted the criteria so tight, and it was like barely any homes, right? 8 or 10 homes. And he understood that the tighter we make it, the more interested I'll be in these ones. Right. And little do we know, like 3 weeks later, I probably went out 3 times, got exactly what he wanted because we weren't going around looking for things that were off his criteria. Right. You know, and that's a perfect example of, you know, if you have certain, you know, interests in what you're wanting, going outside of that where you're just wasting your time. Right. Right. And this is an emotional roller coaster. Right. And so I'm going to take you. Why would I take you to homes, get your hopes up about it when I know already it's not going to work? Right. Like, I don't want to take you on that emotional roller coaster. Again, it sounds like your guy it wasn't as emotional. He was like, nope, it's this, this, and this. Yeah. I mean, he was pretty, he knew exactly what he wanted. Yeah. And he was, him and his wife wwere not good English. Right. Definitely said, you know, he had an agent. Right. But it was a little farther away. But after I met with him one time, he said he's, you know, open to working with me. I didn't get him to sign a buyer rep. That wasn't going on at the time. But, you know, he said, you seem to know everything about the area. And we dialed the criteria, like I said, tight, look for a few days, got him a better deal than we even thought we were going to get. Nice. And super happy. Okay. So we touched on this a little bit. And, you know, you mentioned PPC. You used to do that. We talked a little bit about Zillow leads. 20-something buyer, probably however many buyers you did, a ton of buyers. Where are they coming from? Is this now database? Have you transitioned to it's all database? Or? Not all database. I would say probably, gosh, I'd have to go and look at the numbers, but maybe 5 this year, 6 have been 5 to 7. I don't know. Zillow. Okay. You know, from the brokerage side, PPC, probably like 6 or 7 referrals. Op City, I've done very, very well. Op City, thankfully, that was one of the things that I did when I was younger. Is took care of my Op City score because it's an algorithm thing. If you don't update it, you don't convert, you get put to the bottom. So I've always done well there, and that's been pretty darn good for me over the years. And everybody else, I actually think they cut off. They can't get into Op City anymore. Cannot get into Op City anymore. So. And some of the agents I know that are newer, they're getting, you know, $150,000 land leads, and they could work themselves up, but that would be exhausting to try to close 5-6 land deals to get good deals. So, before, when I was younger doing it, it was all single family homes, but it was still just like 1 or 2 close, and all of a sudden you're getting Temecula Marietta leads, you know? So I always just updated before I had to be updated. I played the game that they wanted to see. Yeah. You know, so thankfully that's been pretty good. Okay. So it's Op City, it's Zillow, it's some PPC, it's some Sphere. It's a pretty broad. An open house too. And open houses. Yeah, I've had pretty decent success with that. And it strikes me that a lot of people get into online leads because that seems like it's still a pretty good portion of the business in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. And they think it's the easy button. Doesn't sound like an easy button to me. You know, what would you like if someone wanted to get, you know, the Anthony Lauria guide to online leads? What's the first thing that you would tell them? Be consistent with following up. depending on the source, it's a longer cycle. And just know that those people have an interest. You know, you're going to be able to eventually filter out who has none or is just not capable of purchasing or selling, but they're motivated in some way. And I always, until they either tell me to, you know, F off or their timeline's different, I try to stay in touch. And sometimes that's hard, you know, to do that, but they raise their hand, you know, and sticking with them. Like I said, I've been cut off or not cut off. I discontinued the PPC I was doing with the person I was working with probably over, I think it was April of 2023. So what's that, like a year and a half ago almost, let's say. And I closed 2 last week. I did a buy and sell in Yucca Valley about 2 months ago. So that was, I mean, 4 deals just from that, but it's after, you know?
Yeah.
And then I had some even, you know, 50% of them closed after I cut it off.
Right. So it's funny because we talk about farming, like geographic farming, but I think what I'm hearing from you is with the online leads, you have to have a farmer mentality. Like these are seeds. These are not referrals. These are seeds. They're leads. So I got to nurture these suckers and bring them up, and the harvest will come, but it isn't, you know,
it's not right away.
No. Yeah. And so there's a patience to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you want the quick business and you got to do what you don't want to do, I'd say open houses, you know, because, you know, doing 5 or 6 in a row, you could get leads and maybe you're showing a buyer or you might have a potential seller, but you keep doing them, you'll get a deal quick. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And that is if you're a new agent, like open houses, they're there. You know, if I'm looking at online leads, people say that you are just above and beyond available, that after hours, you know, just, you know, you're just, you know, how do you do that and not just melt down?
Lose my mind.
Yeah, totally.
I do.
Exactly.
I definitely do. It's tough. I've just got to the point that, you know, I mean, at times if you don't want to be available, you find out later there was a problem that you didn't address and that deal could fall apart. That's not the only reason why, but just, maybe it's my personality too. I hate, like, you know, the majority of it's like when you're in escrow too, and they're calling you or they have a question or what's this mean? Or I saw on the, you know, seller property questionnaire, it said this, and then you're thinking about it while I'm sitting at home. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to worry about this all night. I'd rather not have them do that either and just kind of nip it in the butt. But just letting them know that I care too. Yeah. Because it's definitely an emotional experience. Most of these people have never bought a home. It's their second home, but either way, it's with prices being where they are, it's a huge commitment, and the barrier to entry into real estate is crazy low for how much you're advising someone on their biggest asset. Yeah. You know, I love that perspective of it might be something on a report that's not a big deal. And I know but it is to them. But it is to them. Yeah. Yeah. And perception is 9/10 of reality. Right. And they're worried about the roof shingles or, you know, the cracked tiles. Right. Yeah. And there's, you know, sheeting underneath. They just think that's what they're worried about. I'm like, I got a guy, $200, he'll come out, hop on the roof. Yeah. And so it's that mentality of, listen, this is stressful, and they're not crazy. They're just operating from a matrix that this is their reality right now. They're home, you know, like I think it was, one of these books, it was like The Art of Buying and Selling Real Estate. And he talks about this book is old. I mean, it was old when I bought it. He talks about that the minute you list your home for sale, you're homeless. The minute you say we're going to go buy a home, you're homeless. And there's that something happens in the mind of a buyer or seller where now they just feel totally insecure because, you know, Maslow's pyramid of ascending needs, they don't have shelter also in their mind. Yeah. And it's stressful, right? And so I love that mentality of, I know it's not a big deal, but if it's like a 30-second phone call, it's not that big a deal for me either. Absolutely. But that does beg the question. Family, I mean, you have married, kids, any of that? Or is no, guy? No, I definitely have a girlfriend. Okay. We have a dog, no kids. Okay. Some in the future, yes, but as of now, not currently, no. But that's something, I mean, so again, that ability to be a little more present is there. That's definitely why too. Like 9 o'clock, 9:30, I'll answer the call. You know, otherwise, if I was, you know, had you know, dad duties or something like that, I would definitely. I'm just more available for me, and it's like I'm trying to be as successful as I can, as quick as I can, and figure out how to not have to do this for 30 years.
Right. Right. Yeah. What about leverage? I mean, I know you do a good business. Have you looked, and obviously you're working in a brokerage context, in leadership, but what about leveraging your personal business? Is that something that you have or you're working on or you'd like to develop?
That's always the toughest part. You know, I need to get better at delegating roles, trusting in people. I would like to grow, you know, some sort of a team. I've had VAs before, but it's the micromanaging is tough. They don't do it as well. There's a number of things I could say. That would be, I'd love to work a little less hard, you know, and have, you know, some of the responsibilities that I have to do be carried out by someone else that, you know, either could use the experience themselves or just, you know, wants to grow too. But that is the tough part, is figuring out for me, how to grow. And I think a lot of agents struggle with that too, because, you know, you get up to 50, you know, honestly, I feel like when you're around 40 transactions a year, it's tough.
It's a lot.
You know, you get up to 50, 60, which is amazing. Just think about the inspections, just the showings, the inspections, the reviewing of documents. I mean, it goes on. I mean, it's timely. And then you have, you know, 10, 12 escrows going at once. It's a nightmare. And then you neglect, you know, your follow up and everything going forward too. And then after everything's settled, you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I should have made my call. So that's something you should be doing, is delegating a certain amount of time for this, certain amount of time for that.
Yeah.
I'm preaching to the choir because I don't do that the same way.
Yeah.
But I think that would help me a lot, is if, you know, a certain time of the day I was strictly focused on, you know, let's call it 9 to 12. I'm still trying to grow the business, and then everything else, I just wait documents that, you know, the deal's not going to fall apart right now. It will be okay if I wait, do it later.
Yeah.
I don't always do it that way, but I think, because like I was saying, there's nothing worse than when you've had a blowout 90 days. Awesome. And then things are coming down to the end, and then you're like,
oh yeah,
a little nervous again.
You can have an amazing 90 days and get to the end of it, like, I'm unemployed, right? And
exactly.
It's interesting because it's, you know, leadership, bringing people into your world, leverage. It's sort of the same lesson from the if-then tree in Lofty, right? It's, you got to spend that time to build the if-then tree with that person. And I remember I heard somebody saying, I love it. It's, you have to get somebody to 80%. They're not going to be as good as you are. But if you can get them to 80%, and then you can walk away, when you come back, they're going to be better than you were,
right? Because
they're a specialist now,
right?
And it's so hard, because anytime you have growth, it's you hit a ceiling where, like, I can't do any more by myself. I need new systems. I need new talent, whatever, and then you immediately drop, right? And that's the scary part. But you got to get through the messy to get to the breakthrough, and it's hard. It is. Bringing leverage in is definitely a challenge in it. So. I want to talk about reputation. We've touched on this a little bit, but your reputation is phenomenal with your clients. Your availability is part of that. You talked about building trust with people. How do you build rapport? I mean, particularly, again, some of them are pond leads, some of them are online leads, some people have never met before I showed up at the house. How do you build that rapport?
I just try to know what you're talking about, and the longer you're in real estate, you can provide value and kind of just wow them right off the bat. Being personable, available, and just, being authentic, I feel like is huge. But knowing what you're talking about when you have all those things that I just said is like, that's when they're like, oh, this is the guy.
Yeah.
You know, when you know what you're talking about, and you're advising them on like how an escrow actually works, instead of them going, okay, we got the offer accepted, but what's happening now? Like, I try to prep them before, like why the offers timelines are like this, why we're writing it like that. What happens if this goes wrong? Well, we have this, in place to protect us. Yeah. Just to where they're like, wow, that really made us feel more comfortable, instead of that 9:30 call. And you're like, oh, I should have thought of telling them that, or they, just kind of addressing something before it blows up later. Yeah. And then once you get into the finish line and it goes smooth, or it doesn't, but you figure out a solution, is huge. And then trust me, there's some people I never want to talk to again. deleted right out of my system, like that bad. But if it was good and it went through, I always ask for a review.
Yeah.
Like I think it's, reciprocity in a way. I did something good for them. Now I'm going to ask for something back, and it's not even big. And a lot of times they're like, absolutely, send me the link, you know, and a lot of them do it. Sometimes others don't. And I follow up with them, and I follow up with them, and I follow up with them.
Do you have a system for asking for review? I mean, is it?
Yeah. I mean, I have it through my emails that'll come out, but they just don't do it that way. I either do it 2-3 days before closing when I know we're dialed, everything's good, or right after we close, 3-4 days after, when they're like settled in, depending how it went, if I even remember to do it. I just kind of contact them and, hey, touch base with them. And then, hey, can you do me a huge favor? Absolutely. Online, reviews are huge. Everybody looks everybody up. You can imagine, would you mind leaving a positive review about your experience? It really helps me out. Everybody's like, absolutely. I send them my Google Business and Zillow link, and then that's it. And if they don't send it over 2-3 days later, I'm
following up with them again.
Because you told me you would.
Yeah.
I did my part.
Yeah. The transaction almost lends itself to these points, right? You get through contingencies. Everybody's feeling good. All right. Congratulations. We made it. You get the offer accepted. You get through contingencies. These high points.
Roller coaster.
Oh yeah, totally. And ride the high points. And it's interesting, they get in the home and they got the warm fuzzies, hitting them there. But it's also an opportunity to deal with, because, everybody gets in a home and then immediately they realize the cabinets are chipped and, the stars are out of their eyes. It's also a touch base where you can then do follow-up. Yeah. Like, here are my vendors. Yeah.
And that's another thing I always do too is definitely I'm always following up after. Sometimes it's like better than they thought. Other times they're, they did find stuff, and that's kind of just the drawback of buying something that was previously owned. There's going to be stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've ran into, like, literally on the way over here, I was on the phone, sold a home on Menifee on 1.5 acres, and there was nothing disclosed that it was on septic. We always thought it should be on septic. The agent assured us it's not. Everything assured us it's not. And we're like, wow, it's on well. None of us could figure it out. And little do we know, as he's building this huge thing in the backyard, that they're getting city plans and there's septic there. You can't find the septic still. And apparently it somehow goes under the driveway, and it's way on the left side, but they had to use an excavator because the dirt so hard and is 6 feet, and it's in a concrete septic tank because it's an older home. $3,000. He just paid for today. So I referred him to a real estate attorney because I think it's going to get a lot more than that. But he wasn't mad at me. It wasn't my fault. I mean, there's ways. I mean, I could have gone down to the county or to the city and looked into this, but it was just, nothing on the disclosures, nothing. Right. So at the end of the day, that's not a good call, but he's been grateful I'm helping him. And then other times, people are just like, oh, it's even better. My neighbors are amazing. And those are great, and then I try to do my best at asking if there's anybody else they know. Next 90 days, 6 months, whatever. And a lot of people don't. I try to get better at that. But asking for business, I don't think is a bad thing when you've already kind of got them over the line.
Yeah. Yeah. How do most people find their agents? It was a friend, right? A friend referred them. And how did I find my barber? Friend. How did I find my mechanic? It was a friend, right? And why wouldn't I say, hey, I'd love to help your people, right? We don't think about that. But again, you get the roller coaster. Yeah. It's those points where you can ask and you can go above and beyond. People get into real estate because they think it's going to be easy. I definitely have seen that on my share at times. It's not. It's a very challenging field. What are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
Being, understanding that it's time consuming. You have to go through a lot of no's to get a yes. The more consistent you are, the more it keeps coming. And, don't be afraid of rejection, and just know, if you make a good check, you can make a lot more of those, and just it grows from there. And the better you get at it, the more you know how to utilize your time better and who to work with, who not, get better at, don't show 12 homes, You know, why? You know, I mean, you just get better over time, but just staying consistent until you just realize you might just be awful at it. You're just not a good people person, or you just hate it. If you absolutely hate it every single day, I would say don't do it. But, you know, I had ups and downs of that, but I generally do enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, it's not just about the money. Like, it's kind of an adrenaline rush, as you probably know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, good and bad for sure. But you can create, you know, your own lifestyle in a way. I mean, you can, like, I bought my first rental property with a partner of mine last week. Never would have thought I would have been able to do that in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that kind of happened. Like, he introduced the deal. We looked at it for like 10 minutes and we were like, let's do it. And 30 days later, I was like, you know, but I would have never been able to do that. Yeah.
I mean, this industry, you are buying and you're helping people buy and sell the largest generator of long-term wealth that exists, right? If you want to get wealthy over the long term, real estate has been the most consistent investment, and you have such a unique access into it. I mean, yeah, where else? What else could you do? You know what I mean?
That's what I've already. I don't know. I don't have a plan B at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a problem. You know, like, even if I went to go be, you know, spent 6 or 8 years in school, like some of my friends, it's like, you're not going to make the money I can make in this.
And I kind of look at it and I go, well, what's the plan B? The plan B is I grow.
Yeah. Work harder.
Yeah. I grow. I grow my organization. I grow my team. And I moved from that, you know, chief hustler to chief executive. And I mean, that's the grow. And then it, you know, it becomes exponential at that point, you know. All right. Industry changed a lot. We know that when I got into it in 2003 or 2004, we were still using triplicate. I mean, it was like,
I don't even know what that is.
You had to press hard and you got 3 copies from one. Right? And then you had to fax it. And nobody could read the fax. I mean, but we pretended like we could. It was awful.
What were you faxing?
The offers.
Oh.
There was no email, bro. Like, people did not email offers. There was no DocuSign. It's changed a lot, right? I imagine your tech is a part of your business. What are some tech, you know, things that made a significant impact on your business?
Gosh, I mean, I've trialed and error with a lot of stuff. Mainly just, I would say, using your CRM for sure. Gosh, I use AI. I mean, obviously I've integrated, you know, actual humans with VAs, but, you know, like, I just recently got into another program that I signed up for that they're building for me now to basically extract everybody who's a seller in my database that I don't know about. And then they start ranking them, right? And I can see other properties that they own without them telling me. You know, like, I mean, if you want to grab a farm, I can grab a farm and then start marketing them on email and click a button and start marketing them, you know, to their house. I can pull absentees. I could do, I mean, that's something that a few agents I know are working, some big agents down in San Diego, you know, probably know some of them. But, you know, that's just another thing, another $800 a month I'm spending to see if that works. So it's a trial and error. You know, like, I thought PPC wasn't a good thing. I stopped that. You know, I'm looking at spending $25,000, $27,000 a year on ads, but how much did I make? That was my fault. Yeah. You know, I mean, I shouldn't have done that. But
yeah, it's always just looking at the ROI, right? And it is this industry, more than any that I can think of, there's always that next thing, you know what I mean? Then always that big, oh, well, this is going to do it.
The shiny,
yeah. And just like ruthlessly watching the ROI on it. Like, all right, well, I spent 27, but I made 110. Yeah. I can live with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or whatever, you know, whatever your threshold is. We're coming towards the end of our time here. We've been about 49 minutes. Looking forward, success is more than just numbers, right? What does true success look like to you?
Having actually some of my time back, I guess. You know, eventually I'd like to own more rental properties, have passive income coming in, be more referral based only. Maybe have a lead source here and there, something that's, you know, that I found good. But I love to, you know, own a handful or 2 handfuls of rental properties, be able to live fairly comfortable, you know, have my bills paid, and then do 20, 30 deals off strictly referrals only.
Yeah.
But until I get older, I'm going to try to grind as hard as I can. And then instead of retiring, I mean, if I could take 10, 15 listings, 20 listings a year, work with 10 great buyers that aren't going to drag me through the mud, I'll do that, until I'm 60 years old. I don't know. But that would be something I would look at, and be able to put my phone down sometimes.
Yeah.
Not every time it rings, just like,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So get a little time back, I'd say.
So the plan moving forward then is transitioning from creating contacts to working my contacts.
Yeah.
Transitioning
relationship base is what I'm going for.
Basically. And you've developed so many past clients. I mean, you're ahead of the game, right? It's that moving from a contact, like a lead generation to a contact management mindset. Yeah. And then continuing to invest in real estate. And then more time back is leverage, getting leverage through other people or through systems or whatever, but getting it so that there's more plug and play.
Right.
All right. All right. Then what's next for you as far as future goals? As far as, you're at 39, 40 units, 40 something units this year, 30 something units. I don't remember what you said. What was the number you said?
Oh, I mean, pending close 39.
Okay. 39. What do we want to do next year? Is that even there?
Yeah, no, I mean, I set a goal, which is, you always want to set it higher, but I set it pretty high this year, and I don't know how I thought I was going to get there, but my goal was 52 to try to do one a week. If I can hit 52 again next year, after that, it gets really tough. Maybe next year be able to mentor one or two agents, maybe do 80 deals. But, I'd like to do, if I could do about 50 transactions a year, I'll be pretty pumped. At anything over, I'm, happy with. Tough. But, I'd say 50 deals a year is tough. But that's also when I think I can get to some of those next goals that I was saying is investing, living a more comfortable life, maybe helping out my parents, just kind of being able to do that sort of thing.
I love it, man. Wait, we are coming to the end, and this is something new on the podcast, a little quick fire round. So I hope thanks for being my guinea pig.
Sure.
What's your favorite real estate tool or app that you could not live without?
Real estate tool or app?
Or just anything you're using in your business.
Gosh, that's a tough one. I feel like I don't have that answer. What am I always on? My CRM.
Yep.
My CRM, and always kind of watching what everybody's doing. And then, I would probably say that. It's not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite, but it's the one that I'm using the most.
I think it's the best answer, to be honest,
It's a good way to know what people are doing when they don't really know that you are, but also adjusting things and kind of just, being better at what they're probably wanting to. Yeah. CRM.
There you go.
And then answering all my emails and all my calls.
I love it. It's not sexy, but it's true. Yeah. Your CRM is your business. Yeah. Okay. Most memorable sale.
I thought about this one. It's pretty bizarre, but I was only 2-3 years in, and I actually sold a home to a woman I never met inside of a prison.
Whoa. That is, I have never heard that before. So she was an inmate and she bought a home.
Off of a smartphone in her cell. And I coordinated with her aunt, who, it's a long story. It's even wilder. She, I believe, it's crazy. So she, I believe, got second degree murder with someone that did murder someone, and she was just there. I think that's what it is. She got 20 years. And when I was talking with her, she came in on an online lead, and she was in Kern Valley, I want to say. And she's full cash buyer. And she was in prison for many, many years before that. I want to say like 12 or 14. And she got molested by a warden there, and she had a kid.
Wow.
And years later, she sued, and she got upwards of $2 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And her she had a different son. I guess that was like 14 or 15 now, but he was out and just outside. And her aunt was, I believe, the legal guardian. So I only met her aunt. I met her son, and they picked out the house. They had notary come into the jail and sign. Mm-hmm. It was wild. It was difficult.
Yeah.
But, it was a little, $400,000 house in Hammett, but that was also like 5 years ago. So now the home's like probably $650. Wow. I don't know.
That wasn't quite lightning, but it was awesome. Okay. If you weren't in real estate, what would you be doing?
I don't know. Something with sales, probably.
Okay.
I just feel like you can only work so hard with your hands, or, the dollar per hour. When you're controlled by an hourly wage, it doesn't matter if you perform better or worse. Mm-hmm. It's probably something to do with sales, maybe medical sales or something like that.
Pharmaceuticals, great gig. Yeah,
probably, something of that route.
Okay. And then one thing people don't understand about the Temecula Murrieta, the Temecula Valley real estate market.
Don't understand.
Or misconceptions.
Don't understand there's going to be way more traffic in the next, 5 years than there is. But it's going to be, it's crazy. I've been here since 98.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, but don't understand. It's probably the best place to live if you like Southern California, if you want a good home and a good price.
Absolutely.
You can go to a 1,000 square foot home that's built in 1968 in San Diego County that's outdated, or you can buy, nice one with a pool here in Temecula.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just 15 degrees hotter. You're going to pick the poison.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Well, good deal. Well, Anthony, man, thank you for coming in. It was a great conversation. There's a lot of takeaways for people on this one. Any final words before we sign off?
If you're thinking about getting into real estate, just put your head down and grind and be dedicated, and don't give up for at least a couple of years, I'd say, because it takes 6 months, give or take, to start making money, or at least get a deal. Sometimes it took me 6 months, but just don't give up. And if you hate it, walk away. But if you're frustrated, work harder.
Yeah, good deal.
So,
well, hey, Prosperity Collabs, thanks for tuning in. Check the description for any download links, and we'll catch you guys next time.